What's up, guys? It's King Bowen here, back with another banger, and today we have another cooking video. That's right. My previous cooking video was where I made maple bacon, which is also really good. Go check that video out. Leave a like and subscribe. And today we're making steak, fam. You feel me? All right, it's time for steak. So I have a certain recipe that I use to cook this, and it turns out wonderful. So you know what I'm saying. You gotta get yourself a plate, get everything that you want to use for this. Yeah, you get this here. So first off, for your first step, you get yourself a pan, whatever size pan you want, whatever can fit, and then you get some olive oil. It doesn't matter what kind. You get some olive oil and you pour a little bit like that. Not too much, because olive oil is some thick and heavy stuff. Then you get some, place it in there. I have to wash my hands soon anyway, so I just did before the video, and I'm doing it again. Always wash your hands when you're handling stuff like this. But, yep, so the ingredients that you'll be needing for this is A1 Worcestershire sauce, salt, obviously, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, maple bacon seasoning. Let me put this back on top there. Maple bacon seasoning. These are what you want. The seasonings are what you want for the steak. These are for later. So now it's time to cut. So let me set up the phone so I can show you guys how to do this. I don't know if this is good. I feel like it is. Okay, so you take your steak, you know what I'm saying? I'll set this off later. You take your steak, whatever portion you want, you can bag the rest. For me, I'll probably do, you just cut it in half to start, so you can decide with how much you want to use for this. You take them apart, and then you start cutting them into slivers, kind of like that. Kind of like this, like a sliver. And you just keep doing that, and you do it for the whole steak or how much you want to use for this steak. And you just keep laying them out. And eventually you'll get pieces that look, you get a bunch of slivers that look like this. Or you probably can't see it, but you'll look like slivers. And then, that's probably not enough, because I'm a hungry boy. I like food. I'm probably gonna end up using a lot more than just that. So here is the rest. Let me just cut off these extra pieces. There's a lot of fat on this steak, and so it's hard to cut it with a knife that has no prongs. This is a smooth friction knife. And so after you cut your steak pieces into slivers, you'll want to cut them into dices, like cube it. Cut them into small bite-sized cube-like pieces. And it helps them cook faster, and you can also see how long or how well your steak is being cooked mid-cook. So you can tell if you want to keep going, if you want to stop at medium rare, keep going for well done. And you just keep doing that. We're going to save that piece for a little later, in case I want to feed them dogs or something like that, And we'll save this whole chunk there too for another animal of mine. And yeah, you just cut the rest. So it should end out like you having cube-sized pieces just like this. All right, so I'm gonna slide. So you slide now. It's time to slide all your pieces to the side, because now it's time for the spices. And since I got blood and juice and all that yucky stuff everywhere from the steak, I'm gonna put a paper towel here so the spices don't get caught up in whatever that is. So you start with your garlic powder. You sprinkle a lot of that on your paper towels, because you want your steak pieces to have flavor. And now, same thing with onion powder, but yeah, you want to get some of that. Yep, all good up in there. And then you want some maple bacon seasoning, or something sweet like sugar would also be good. You sprinkle that everywhere, and then you get a lot of salt, grind it out everywhere. And yes, I know, I'm doing some weird movement with my hands. Do not judge me, please. Pepper. And it should end up looking something like this. All your seasonings combined. And then the next step, which is probably the easiest step, is you take your piece and you cover it in the spices. Just like so. Like it should look like this, you know, covered up in your spices. And then you set it aside because you don't need it right now. And then you just keep doing that for every single piece because why not? You need to get stuff like that done. And so I'll cut when it's ready. Okay guys, so now that your steak is all chopped up, which I'll show in a second, you take your stove and you turn it on. And so it's pretty high heat. And you turn this on so your butter and your oil start to like melt, so they get all over the pan. And you just move around your pan kind of like this from a lot of the time, just so not only one area of the surface of the pan is only covered. And so your steak pieces just look like this, covered in your seasoning. And now you take them over to your dispenser like this. You put them in here, just like that, and you'll start to hear that sizzle. You'll hear that, and that means good. And there's also one more thing I forgot to add onto my steak, which is Lowry seasoned salt. So the steak isn't sorry. So now I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt here and there on my pieces, just to give them a little bit more flavor. Since I forgot about that part, that's my bad. And now, make sure that you guys are stirring everything, just like so. Just make sure you're stirring it. That white stuff, that's the butter. It looks like something it's not supposed to, but yeah. So now that everything is all situated and you can start to see that it's cooking, here's the time where you start to add your certain sauces. So now, take your Worcestershire and you pour it, and you'll hear that sizzle. That's good. That's a good sound. You want to hear that. And now you want also turn down your heat just a little so that sauce doesn't burn and stick onto the pan. And now you take your A1, you pour that just all along the surface of the pan as well. That might have been a little too much, I don't know. And you just make sure that you stir this in, so not only so the liquid doesn't melt, but your steak pieces get covered in all the sauce. That's the main part, is that your pieces get covered in the sauce and they start to look a little brown from the sauce. That means they got it. And you don't want to see any pink or red unless you want medium rare, but medium rare is a little too complicated for this recipe. And so you see how quiet it got from what it was a couple minutes ago. That is a good thing. That means that not only has your heat gone down, which is it's supposed to, but it's not high enough temperature to burn the sauce on the surface of the pan, which is bad for cleaning it up, and it's just bad in general. And so if you're cooking these, I recommend cooking them for around 5 minutes, depending on the temperature of your stove, I guess. And you take your peas, if you want to check if it's done or not, you take your peas and you just cut it in half. And you just check to see if it's pink. Now, my steak pieces are pink. That means it is definitely not done. So now we crank that heat back up to around high. And we just make sure that we are stirring. And I'm sorry for the mess. It's hard. It's kind of messy to make this stuff. But that means that our steak pieces are not done yet. So we keep them on high and we just let it cook. And we just kind of keep stirring it around with our spatula just so the sauce doesn't melt. And maybe turn down the heat to around medium. But these pieces normally take around 5 to 10 minutes, depending on if you followed everything so far and you're on track. It'll probably take you about maybe 10 minutes to actually cook this thing. It'll probably take you 15 to get the seasoning and all that stuff done. And so you want to make sure that your meat is not raw when the cooking is over, because you don't want to get sick, obviously. And if you see gray in your steak, that means it is well done, which is what we are trying to get right now. And so far, it looks pretty good, appetizing, I'd say. And I would probably say that it's about done now. So let me turn that heat off. You're still gonna hear the noise just because of how hot it is. And now, you get your plate ready, and I'll cut to you when it's okay, so this is what your steak should look like when you're done. You can see all the juice. That's why it has so much of a glare. And you can see how brown it is from the sauce. And you can just tell it's well done. So obviously a chef tries his food when he cooks. And so I'm gonna take one of these. I'm gonna give you guys my honest reaction real quick. All right, so I'd have to say that it is really flavorful, and we cook it well done just to give it that easy chew, and so it's not so hard to chew, and it's salty. You can taste every single bit of flavor in it, and yeah, it's that simple. So thank you guys for watching the video. Subscribe if you enjoyed. Leave a like if you're gonna use this one day or something, and comment down below any other foods I should try to make or any video games I should play. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next banger. Peace.